The reason is very simple. As I speak today, Africans abroad, including Nigerians, in fact, majorly Nigerians, we actually send over $150 billion on a yearly basis. That's the amount we send home. Now, do you know what $150 billion is? That's more than the budget of some countries. While we send this incredible, this humongous amount of money back home, most Nigerians in the UK, I'll center into the UK because that's where we're at. Most Nigerians in the UK hardly do something meaningful for themselves. I was happy when Bukumi was sharing earlier that when it comes to building this wealth, it is never about how much you earn. Building wealth is not about how much you earn. Building wealth is only about one thing, the systems you build around what you earn. I personally have seen loads of people that earn a lot, I mean, humongous amount of money, but at the end of the day, they are just one paycheck away from dependency, one paycheck away from poverty. On the other hand, I've seen people who earn an average amount of money, right? But guess what? They have been able to build a system around what they earn. And that's exactly what we're going to see tonight. Now, while I was growing up, I spent some some of my formative years, interestingly. I spent some of it living with my grandma. I was in secondary school then. I remember revolting that I wasn't going to go, but apparently God is a very humorous God. God had other plans, And when I stayed with her, she happened to work at that time with the Apostle Faith Printing Press, right, in Antony Village. So I went to a school called Aladura Comprehensive High School. Mm. you know. And it was very interesting because while I was there, um, I would go to school, I'll come back in the afternoon to meet her there. Now that printing press happened to be um it happens to consist mostly of aged people, people who are like, of course they also had some young people there, but most of them were older people, elderly people, but they were working. Why? Because the printing press job is just you sit down and you are folding papers. They had massive machines there, right? So what happened to me while I was there? While I was there, I noticed something, right? And I don't think any other thing would have taught me that lesson better than what I saw. And what was it? I saw many old people, both men and women. Old, I mean, people in their 60s, in their 70s, right? In their late 50s, but majorly 60s, right? And then I saw them, a good chunk of them were living good life. Like they were, towards the final phase of their life, they were living good lives. You know why? Because they had planted the right seeds when they were young. And guess what? A very good chunk of them also were struggling. They didn't have people to take care of them. They were struggling to eat. They were struggling to feed to meet their basic needs. And for me, that made me go back to think that, wow, because I was very young. So I was like, wow. So this life is not about, and guess what? Both of them wanted a good life, but they had a different ending. And it occurred to me, it dawned on me, like the lesson landed in my brain. It hits me hard that what really defines the middle and final phase of our lives is ultimately how we lived the earlier phase of our lives. Living the early years of your life. Please note this very well. Living the early years of your life the way most people won't. So you can live the rest of your life the way most people can't. And that's it. So while I was there, interestingly, it was also during that period I read The Richest Man in Babylon. And that book killed it for me. So when I left the place, I left a different person. My mindset about life, about the future was radically transformed. Not with a book, but what we thought I saw. It was my Korokoro eyes, right? So I left the place and then, of course, I finished secondary school, went to the uni. Long story short, and of course, from that point in time, I got really serious about life. I started writing very early. So as at when I was at 21 thereabout, I wrote my first book. I was in school then, year two, my first degree. And that book found its way into the hands of a major publisher. And that book actually got me my first job. So when I got my first job, I was earning 80,000 naira as a journalist. If I mention the media house, most of us would actually know it's a very popular media house, right? I later found out that I was the youngest person there, earning the same salary with the people I met there who were graduates, but I was not a graduate then. That goes to show the power of preparation as well. There's a lot of lesson in this story if you pick it, but that's not where I'm even going. So while I was earning that amount, I did one thing again because of what I saw. Most people would say save 10% of your money. I say to people, well, the percentage you will save will be dependent on how far you need to go. Imagine if you're a parent, for instance, imagine that your 6-year-old daughter is you and your 6-year-old daughter are running a race, right? And she's chasing you. The way you will run, of course, you will run in a particular way, right? But imagine that you went to a place and suddenly a massive dog was let loose. How would you run? The way you will run if a 6-year-old is chasing you is definitely different from the way you would run if a lion or a dog, a wild dog is chasing you. So that's how I see it as well. The amount you will save is dependent on how far you need to go. If you've got a NEPO background, the amount, of course, you can take it easy. But if you know that you have a long way to go and they are saying save 10%, I say, please save more than that. So I started saving aggressively with my 80K. And guess what? I was still in my early 20s. I was able to build my first house, right? Of course, I was saving aggressively. I was saving easily like about 50%. Of course, I didn't have much responsibilities. But aside from that, I also started a company. I was consulting for celebrities. I was doing PR for celebrities. So when I save a huge amount from my 80K, and by the way, 80K that at that time was quite good. Naira was still quite good. And I would also earn a lot of money from consultancy. So I started putting them together. When my friends were buying cars, I wasn't buying cars. I went to get a land and started building. So I built my first house in my 20s. And since then, by God's grace, I have not looked back. So my challenge to you really is what's in your hand? Eventually, I moved to the UK. Then when I moved to the UK, what I found in the UK that breaks my heart, which is why I'm very happy. And please, if you can drop a thank you to Bukumi for organizing this, please drop it in the comments so that this guy needs to be seriously appreciated for doing this at such a time as this. So when I got to the UK, I saw something. I saw two realities again. I saw Nigerians doing packing shifts, packing jobs together. You see a Nigerian doing 3 shifts, 4 shifts, kilo day. And unfortunately, they are building close to nothing for themselves. Close to nothing for themselves. And on the split side, I see what I would call the 1%. And when I say 1%, I mean it, of Nigerians in the UK as well, doing something radically different. So tonight, I'm here not just because Bukumi has invited me. I'm here because a lot will change about you. And in 2, 3 years, and the interesting thing about change is that it doesn't take so long for you to see it. Okay, you just need to make a decision, take action, and the change is inevitable. All right, so let's move. A lot of times we talk about Nigeria this, Nigeria that, but I think that one of the fundamental things we have to get right in Nigeria is the fact that Nigerians have to be wealthy for Nigeria to be wealthy. It is unfair to expect Nigeria to become one of the wealthiest nations on earth if Nigerians are not empowered to create wealth. And particularly if we're sending that kind of amount, 150 billion, back to Nigeria every year, if Africans in diasporas do not rise, we would only be known for sending remittances back home, not building systems, structures, assets, institutions, and legacies. How do we do that? This is the problem. How do we solve it? But this is the biggest differentiator between those whose life matter after the jackpot and those whose life do not. I kid you not. This is the biggest determinator. And what do I mean by vision? I'll tell you a quick story. So there was a time that um a particular family were going on a family trip, right? They used a ship. They were going on a trip. They used a ship. It was a massive ship, very beautiful. So there was this father and the daughter and the family as well. They were together. And as they were going, they got to a point where they stopped to take some break and all of that. And all of a sudden, the daughter, the girl, the girl saw something from the ship. She saw far off. She saw a very tall, beautiful building far off from the ship. And then she gazed at it like, wow. The father also was there, but he couldn't see it at that time. So she called her father. I was like, Daddy, Daddy, come and see. Daddy, see. And the dad looked, he couldn't see anything. Daddy, come and see, Daddy, see. So the dad stood on top of something as well. And then dad said, what can you see? Dad asked, what can you see? She said, Daddy, look, I can see farther than my eyes can look. That day, that girl defined the meaning of vision. So vision is seeing beyond the now. Vision is coming to the UK and seeing everybody doing care work and seeing everybody packing shifts, but choosing to do something different with your life and with your future by making decisive decisions and taking different actions from those who are around you. Right. So my first question to you is, what's your vision? What's your vision? Because packing 3 shifts is definitely not a vision, right? Doing what everybody's doing in the UK is not a vision. So, and how do you even start? The first question is, where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years? One of the qualities of people who will build financial freedom, right, very early is that they think long term, right? Every average person thinks short term. Okay, what can I buy now? What can I get now? That's how most people in the world think. And if you want to achieve what most people will not achieve, you have to be willing to do what most people will not do. It's called discipline. It's called vision. So what's your vision? Because essentially, okay, I mean, when I got to the UK, I've always had the vision that, okay, I'm coming here for a reason, for a purpose. I came here for access. I believe that my vision, my goals, my dreams, they are global. For my ideas to be able to be transmitted beyond borders, I need to solve the problem of access or the challenge of access. And that's the reason why I'm here. So I will not be bogged down by night shifts because my vision is different. So what's your vision? If you don't have that vision, that's when you are trapped by what I call the diaspora trap. What's the diaspora trap? The circle of survival jobs. We'll get this job, we'll pay house rent. Because if you're not careful, if you know how much you pay, I'm sure you know how much you pay on a monthly basis to survive in the UK. House rent, council tax, gas, electricity, name it, right? By the time you're done paying that, you probably have £30 or £60 or £500 left. And before you know it, it's also gone through during the month, black tax and all of that. But why? Simply because in most cases, there's no structure. Not because you cannot leave that place. There's no structure, there's no vision. But when you have vision, vision will create structure. In fact, vision will make you say no to some opportunities because it is not every opportunity that is for you. Most opportunities are actually distractions in disguise. But when we don't have vision, you will not know because everything will look like an opportunity to you and for you. How do you then move from here to there? Very simple. 4 steps. Number 1 is vision. Now, what is vision? We've defined vision already. So vision is a picture of that desirable future that you are headed to. And if you don't have it, it will limit you. You will not know, but it will limit you. There's something about having a vision and writing it down. Why? Because when you are in the UK, no matter what is happening, you know that this is where I'm going. So when you are, even if you have to, and don't get me wrong, there is dignity in labor. There's nothing wrong with starting with a care job or whatever job it is. And care job is not a bad job. But the key thing is that you were not created to die doing shifts. So you need to cast your vision. Know your why. Why are you even here in the first place? What was your vision back in Nigeria before you left Nigeria? So the fact that you're in the UK right now should not cancel out your vision. So what is your why? That's the first thing. Second thing is to map out your how. So when you know the why, that's when you can then go to the how. So this is your why. Okay, my why is so 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 and so. Okay, now what is your how? How speaks to how you then get to your why? What are the things that you need to do to get to your why? That's the second thing that you need to write down and answer by yourself. Nobody can answer that for you. My own answers are different. I have my own answers here, right? And I will tell you what, I believe I'm where I am today by God's grace and because I define my why and I define my how. So there are certain opportunities now that if you bring to me, I would appreciate you and thank you very much. But I will say no with dignity, with joy, and I will not feel bad about it. You know why? Because I have a why. If I don't have a why and you bring a job to me, I'm like, because there's money there, I will jump at it. And that's why having a why is very critical to making your life count, both in the UK and anywhere in the world. So know your why, first step. Second step, what is your pathway? How are you going to get there? Now, third step is that you have to become, you see, visions don't fulfill themselves. See, every vision has a provision. That's the truth. Visions usually attract provisions, right? In fact, I tell people that, see, there is more money in the world looking for great ideas than there are great ideas. I know that for a fact. There is more money looking for great ideas than there are great ideas. And what are ideas? Visions. But when you don't have it, you struggle. It's like a rat race, crab mentality, all that limiting mindsets, limiting circles, right? But when you have a vision, set you aside, right? So map out your vision and then what's your how? How do you get there? Right. So the third thing is you have to become the person that attracts that vision. What do I mean by that? So let's say you want to become one of Africa's top software developers. That's a vision, right? And you plan to return to Africa to make a difference. That's a vision, right? That vision also would have its own financial, spiritual, mental implications. Those will come, those are your how, who do you have to become spiritually, mentally, financially, physically. All of those things are your how. Your why is already set. I'm just using an example. I want to become one of Africa's top 5 software developers, right? For you to become that, there are certain things that has to happen. The kind of skills you need to get, certifications, um, whatever it is, that's your how. Now, become the version of the person that attracts it. What does that mean? It means that when you've said the how, then you now commit to what do you need to do? What kind of books are you going to read? What kind of opportunities are you going to go for? What kind of relationships are you going to surround yourself with? Very, very important. I found that when people come to the UK, the first set of people that you relate with will determine how far you go in the UK. When you see me look back, I'm watching the time, will determine how far you're going. So it's very important that you decide where you want to be, how you want to go there, and become the person. So, because another thing that frustrates the fulfillment of vision, one thing that frustrates the fulfillment of a vision is when there is a vision, but there's no capacity that matches that vision. And that's why not every vision comes to pass. Every vision has the capacity to come to pass, right? God will never give you a vision that He has not equipped you to bring to fruition. But while there's that vision, there has to be a capacity building responsibility on you. That's where your own part comes to play. If you play your part, God will play His part. Good. And then the fourth thing is execution. Why? Of course, because nothing moves except you move it. Nothing moves except you move it. Even nature lose with disfavor at any attempts to obtain something for nothing. So it's very, very important that those happen. Now, when you put all of those things together, the thing is, time has a way of working some miracles when your head, your vision are properly put in place and you are committed to getting there. So I recently paid for a course, and that's why you have to invest in yourself. And it's for a virtual call like this, 1.55 million naira. One of the things that the course has helped me to do was get better with asset building. And I was calculating recently, and when I calculated, I was surprised. Guy, you are this box top. These things are possible when we align ourselves with the right vision. Good. And when that happens, what then also happens is the miraculous begin to happen. Time begins to work for you, not against you. Right? And And with time, the beautiful thing about time is that we all have 24 hours. Dangote has 24 hours, you have 24 hours, I have 24 hours. So, irrespective of where you are right now, you have no excuse not to become the best version of the person in that vision that you have. Like, there is nothing, like, I don't believe that there's anything in life that I cannot achieve. It's just, it's just beneath me. As long as I can commit to give it what it takes, there's nothing you cannot do. Why? Because you have time. As long as you have life and you have time, there is nothing impossible. All you have to do is whatever it is you want to do, go back, count the costs. What will it take to get there? And then start doing it. So for instance, um, I shared this recently. Two things every young African should do with their salary. And this is, I'm sure many of us can afford more than this, but I went to the most basic level. So if you invest 50,000 naira, how much 50,000 naira in the UK? That's 25 pounds. This is 25 pounds. So if you invest 25 pounds, that's 50,000 naira, you know, every month in two ETFs. These are ETFs that I personally, you know, studied, and I found that these guys are wicked ETF. These two, they are, the S&P 500, VU and QQQ, right? If you invest your money, why? Because historically, these two are growing at an annual rate of 12% and 18% respectively. Right. What does that mean? If you invest 25 pounds, péré, on a monthly basis into these two instruments, right? See what happens. In 10 years, you're going to have 14 million. In 20 years, you're going to have 89 million. In 30 years, you're going to have almost half a billion naira. Of course, I mean, I know the word we'll say usually is 30 years is a long time. But guess what? Whether you like it or not, 30 years will come, right? It's not going to be a game of who has done it, but I can give you more startling statistics. I shared something on my Instagram recently about how 10 years ago, if you invested $10,000 um in some companies, right now you'd be over $1 billion rich. That's the power of compound interest when you put your resources, your little resources, into the right investments. So that way, as you are, even when you are doing the job here, you are excited because why? As much as you are working hard, your money is working what? Harder for you. That's how it should be. Anything else is living below our potentials, living below our wisdom. God has given us wisdom. It says in the scripture, it says, go to the ants and learn their ways. See, they don't have an overseer or a ruler. But guess what? They sow their seeds in summer. They carry, you see them, I'm sure you've seen hands before. They'll carry those things and take it inside the hole, right? All summer. So when it is raining, they are in a settled place. They have no problem. Why? Because they did the right thing at the right time. Because guess what? We won't always be young. All right. So another example, for instance, I have to use the lowest amount so that you see what is possible. Now, for someone, for most people here in the UK, I'm sure you can do more than that. What does that mean? The more you now do, the higher the possibility of your returns. So, for instance, if you are doing, instead of this 50K now, if you are doing 100K, which is 50 pounds again, very limited amount, you will not be having double this result. You'll be having more than double because compound interest is working in your advantage. All right, let's move forward. So, how do you then do this? So, one of the things I found when I'm talking to people about investment and all of these things is that we usually have two classes of people. There are those who are earning a lot of money, they can afford to save good amounts and invest those amounts. And then to the other side, we have another set of people, right, who really want to save. They want to start now, but they don't have the resources to get started, right? Why? Because they are not earning enough. Now, what's the solution to not earning enough? Skill sets, skill sets, skill sets, skill sets. And how do you solve that problem? Very simple. And that's why I said, as long as you are living, you are among the living, there is nothing you cannot achieve financially, spiritually, mentally. There's nothing. The only reason why anybody will not achieve anything is because they are not willing to give it what it takes. As long as you're willing to learn what it takes and give what it takes, nothing is impossible to do. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So, how do you convert time into skills? You know, see, when we were given birth to by our mothers, by our parents, we came into this world with what we call talents. Talents is our God-given abilities, the things that you can do naturally, whether you can paint naturally, you can code naturally, right? I mean, you have the brain for it, that's what I mean, because somebody was born with that, with the coding skills, right? But there are certain things that you just have natural flair to do, right? You can just do them by yourself without anybody stressing you, without anybody forcing you. You just have, that's its talent. But the challenge with talent is that a lot of times most of us stop there. We think that because I'm talented, Nah. If you want to make the best of your life, you want to make the best of your UK journey, wherever you are, right? You have to sharpen your talent into high demand skills. Very, very important. Now, this is where most people actually miss it. You know, they are looking for jobs, looking for job, looking for job. Meanwhile, what they should actually be doing is looking to sharpen their skills before looking for job. Are we together? Are we still together? If we are still together, please let me know in the chat, in the comment section. If you are still together, just say I feel you. Okay, good. So, where were we? So essentially, I'm saying that there are two kinds of people, those who have the money and those who are earning, but they need to actually increase their earning potential so that they can invest more money. I understand that. That is very possible, right? And this is one of the biggest challenges I see around Nigerians in the UK and abroad, right? Once we jackpot, we want to use this, we want to stick to that. This is what I know how to do. This is as if you are a tree. You're not a tree, you can move, you know. You are a human being. A human being, it is a continuous tense, meaning that you have the capacity to continually reinvent yourself and be better than you were yesterday, right? And reinvent yourself is not just about one area of your life, it's about every area of your life. So, what does that mean? It means if you came here and you're currently in a particular job and you're earning £2,000, guess what? You can earn £4,000. Yes. Àwọn tó ń earn ẹ̀ hàn lórí méjì, right? You know, so when I came to the UK, for instance, before I came, again, the power of planning, when I knew I was traveling, so I was like, okay, in Nigeria, I was doing well. In fact, I remember the day we were driving to the airport when I was going to leave Nigeria, right? I was telling the person driving me that, I have a bittersweet feeling because I'm actually doing well in Nigeria and all of that. But what did I do before I traveled? I knew because I was in tech, right? So I studied the top paying skills and I went to get certification to sharpen my skills. But this time around, I got a certification that is global. I went to get product management certification. Why? So that once I land, bam, I'm not going to be, queuing behind any kind of job. I'm going to be queuing behind the highest paying job. It's called strategy. It's called vision. That's why I said, what is your vision? Right? So whatever job you're in right now, if it's not paying you well, I'm not saying don't leave the job yet, but whilst you're on the job, go and get the best skills that ties into achieving that vision. And that's why I started with vision. All right, we need to run very fast now. Now, because essentially, money doesn't flow to wishes. Money flows to value. And nobody will pay for your talents in their raw forms. People pay premium for talents. I mean, people pay premium rather for skills, not talents, right? It is skills that bring success. Talent is never ever enough. All right, now let's go. So when you've upgraded your skill, then you need to execute, 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 execute. Like I said, when I was coming, I did the certification, and when I landed in the UK, interestingly, as God would have it, and this was all God as well. There's a part that God plays. In fact, no, there's no part that God plays. God plays every part, all the parts, because again, the race is never to the swift, and that's why God has to be a part of all your plans. It has to be part of your, you know, processes. It has to be part of every phase, right? Because when God has gone before you, trust me, there can be no closed door, right? But you have to play your part, because again, that's where we miss it at times. We want to delegate everything to God, right? So, but the strategy that works is that you delegate as much as possible to God, as though everything is going to be done by God, but you also delegate everything to yourself, right? as though everything depends on what you do. When those two things come together, it's called faith and action. Faith without action is dead. Good. So that's why you have to execute, right? So, and how do we execute? Let's now get into it. The pillars of wealth for Africans in diaspora, right? There are three simple things: income, savings, investment. And that's why I had to cover skills, because that's the part that most of us never cover. We just go say, we tell people, okay, save, invest, but these people don't have the right skills. They are not earning enough to pay for their rents and also be able to save. And that's why that skill set part is very critical. Please don't joke with it. So if you are earning enough today, right, then that's good. It means I could just keep sharpening your skills with the job that you have and then focus on this part. But if what you're earning today is not enough to even settle you and your family, you want to go back, no matter how old you are, trust me, you can reinvent yourself at any age. All right. So that's that. So once you've settled skill sets, right, it will take time. You might want to go for a certification, you want to go for some courses, you want to get a mentor and decide which skill you want to achieve and how much they pay in that job. When I got in, for instance, the first role I got was, it paid me a lot of money. In fact, I had not seen that kind of money before in my life, right? And I was very glad that I did that before I moved. Good. So now, once you've done that, the next stage is then the stage where I've called the three pillars of wealth for Africans in diaspora. What are they? Savings, income, savings, investment. Because you've sorted your skills, you will now be earning a high income, right? Um, when you are earning a high income, you have to save and you have to invest, right? Now, true wealth rests on these three legs. If you remove any leg, you can't build anything. Why? Because it will collapse. And why? Simply because without income, you cannot save. And without saving, you cannot invest. So they have to follow. You have to earn, then from that earning, you save, and that saving goes into your investments almost automatically. Good, and we're gonna get there, right? So you earn by growing your skills. Like I said, you protect what you earn by saving, and then you multiply what you have saved. Good. So, and I've given an example here as well. Good. So the next stage then is budgeting, right? Now, saving becomes very easy when you've mastered how to budget. Budgeting, usually at times people think is a punishment. Budgeting is actually freedom. Trust me. Budgeting means that you are in control. When you don't budget your money, you basically lose control. Like, I don't know, at times I don't even understand how people do it, because I feel confident when I know that I am in charge of my life, right? When you budget your money, what you're telling yourself is that you control how these things happen. And guess what? Money loves order. When money comes to your hand and you treat it properly, like you are in charge, like you're a leader, more money flows to you. It is natural, it is spiritual. Trust me, it is money is very spiritual. Money flows more to you when you handle it well. Money flows away from you when you don't handle it well. Good. And money is like a servant. We want to say about money, because again, there are also a lot of mindset that we have from Nigeria or in Africa. Or money is evil. Money is not evil. The love of money is what is evil. Money only follows your heart. If you have a good heart, you will use money to build hospitals, to build schools, to send people to. If you have a bad heart, you use money to destroy things. Good. So money is neutral. Money is actually good. Money can build churches. Trust me. Money can do a lot of things for Africa, right? It's like a servant. If you send it on errand, it will go for you. If you don't send it on errand, it will sleep. And inflation will kill your savings. It can also be described as water. When you give it direction, it will go there. If you don't, it will leak, right? So, but what we found is that most Africans in Nigeria also, they earn a lot of money, some 2K, 4K, and all of that, but we still end up broke. Why? Because by the end of the month, you are done spending it. Why? Because there's no budget. So how should you budget your money? Now, there is a general rule that I use and that a lot of people have used um, that works for them. Now, however, I like to say this, even though many people that have been privileged to teach this have used it and they've come back with amazing results, right? But what I also like to say is that this rule is not cast in stone. Feel free to adjust it to your own situation. But generally, it's called the 50-30-20 rule. What does that mean? 50% for your needs. What are needs? Needs are things that you cannot do without. For instance, your rent is a need. If you don't pay rent, they will send you out. Good. Your feeding is a need. If you don't eat, you know what will happen, right? So all those things that you must do, they fall under needs. Of course, you can still cut them down, because again, one of the things that we also do that impedes our capacity to build wealth is called lifestyle creep. When you are trying to buy things that you cannot afford right now, even if you can afford it, as long as it will not help you build wealth for tomorrow, you actually cannot afford it. Because would you rather play now and pay dearly later, or you rather pay now and have a future where you are living a soft life? Which one would you rather? The choice is yours. Good. So 50% for needs, 30% for wants. What I want are things that you can actually do without, but you still want to, enjoy yourself. Of course, it's important to enjoy yourself while you're building wealth. So usually 30% to wants, things like Netflix subscription. You want to take your wife out, you want to take your babe out and stuff like that, right? And then 20% into wealth building. This is what goes direct straight into your investment account, right? So, and even Warren Buffett, as rich as he is today, still budgets. So good. Control your black tax. Why? I like to give this illustration of crab, five crab put into a bucket. We should go and try it. If you put one crab into a bucket and you give that crab time, that crab will come out successfully. But guess what? Once you drop two crab into that bucket, or three, once they are more than one, guess what happens? They will never come out. You know why? As one is trying to go up to come out, another one will pull it down. That's what happens mostly in Africa. So we have somebody in the family that finally travels out. I want to release here. And then as soon as the person lands, bam, all the entire family put their responsibility on the person. So meanwhile, here's how I like to put it. When you are the person in your family, or you have a person in the family that is doing well or seem to be doing well, they finally have a breakthrough, maybe a salary, or they travel out. Guess what? That person is not wealthy. That person only has something called potential to be wealthy. Now, potential is only something that can become. It's not guaranteed that it will become, but it's something that can become if certain conditions are met. What does that mean? It means that when you are in that situation, you are only able to build sustainable wealth if you allow yourself time to invest strategically, consistently over time, and allow time and compound interest to work. That is how you are able to convert potential. That salary that you are earning above everybody in your family is a potential, it's not wealth. So if you don't give yourself the leeway, the opportunity to compound it, save and invest over time, that potential will end up potential and it will die. And that's what happens with crap when everybody brings it down, you know. So what do you then do in this case? What you do is you have a particular amount that you budget for family. And once that amount has been expended, when they come back, it's a no. Why? Not because you don't love them, but actually because you love them more. So that what? So that you can build for the future and are able to sustainably provide for them when that future arrives. Are we together? So good. Now, once you're able to do all of those things, then you can now do what? Multiply your money, right? You can multiply your money. How do you multiply your money? By leveraging investment instruments. One of the investments, the strategy I like to actually give right now, um, or would I like to share rather, is balancing both stocks markets and real estate. How do I mean? Right now, the stock market is doing incredibly amazing. I did a quick experiment last week. So I have some investment in some accounts. So I do the screen grab of them. I think it was on maybe Monday or thereabout Tuesday. It was between 3 days. And then after 3 days, I did a screen grab and I just compared it. And I was like, wow, the difference. Like the amount that you have gained in just 2 days. That is what the right investment strategy can do for you. What's the right investment strategy? It's by balancing your investments. So what do I mean by that? Invest in stocks and then invest in real estate. Before now, I didn't used to be a stocks person, but I haven't seen what is happening in the stocks market. Man, I'm like, this is what I've been missing for years, right? So let me give you an example. If you invested in MTN when they started, I think it sold around, can't remember the price now. It was a ridiculous amount, maybe 100 and something. Now MTN is about 400. So if you have 1 billion of shares in MTN, it means that you must multiply that by the growth rates, from I think it was about 200 to 400. That is, you'll have 200, like, it's an incredibly dizzying um growth rates that the Nigerian stocks market has actually achieved and experienced, right? So what I really generally advise is um diversify your investment. So what does that mean? Invest in Nigerian stocks, invest in the global stocks market. And when I say the global stocks market, I mean ETFs. I've shown example of what is possible. You go for those two ETFs, but balance it. What do I mean by balancing? You do some growth, of course. I offer a proper stock class. If you want details to that, you can. If you have my Instagram handle, you can go there. You can subscribe for the, it's a monthly. It runs every month now. So there we go into the detail of how to do that. But for this session, I'll say invest in stocks, invest in real estate. Now, how do you do that? So my strategy is that I invest in stocks, and then I take my proceeds, but there's a way to take your proceeds from stocks. Right? When you have a goal and your stocks has performed very well, you take your proceeds and you invest in the real estate um, um, market as well. So that way, you are balancing your investments, and you're also doing what you are guarding against any what's it called, surprises, right? And it's simply called diversification, right? Both in stocks, you can buy growth stocks, you can buy, the different set of stocks to balance your portfolio so that you edge against any issues and you're able to diversify. In real estate as well, the same thing happens. So when you invest your money, these are the kind of instrument that you should be looking into: stocks, real estate, and setting up businesses as well. Because again, that's another thing that I wanted to even talk about, because when you come to the diaspora, it's almost as if we've been told, it's as if someone told us in a subtle way that we should not build businesses, that the only thing we can do is work. Who says? When you come here, one of the best things you can do is actually register a business. Register a business, look at where there are needs, and start building your business from scratch. It is possible, right? So, anyway, for tools for diaspora wealth, you've got in the UK, US, Canada. Of course, in the UK, you have Moneybox, you have eToro, you have Trading 212, a lot of them out there. If you are in the US, there's Vanguard, Fidelity, for ETFs. In Nigeria, Bamboo, Chaka, Trove, and all of that, right? So, and like I said, pour your stocks profits into real estate over time. Buy land in places like Redemption Camp, buy land in places like Ekpe and all of those places. Land is appreciating incredibly, like tremendously in those axes, right? When you buy those things, once you buy it like this, it's called land banking. As you sleep and wake every day, guess what? It is appreciating, appreciating. I bought a 4 plots of land in Ogun State a few, it's up to a year now. When I heard the price recently, I was shocked. I was shocked. But I won't say more than that. You can pick the queue. And then lastly, um, there are other ways to also earn passive income. You can create digital products, right? You can create ebooks. If you have anything, see, and that's another thing that is very interesting. We like to at times, underrate our experiences. If you've been through anything in life, you can write a book about it. And guess what? People will pay for it online. People will pay to get that book. People will pay to get what? To get the book. So um buy stocks, buy land, create digital products. Even if you failed at something, guess what? You can write a book about it. It is in Africa that when we fail, we feel shy. I'm like, no, in the developed world, when somebody fails and they write a book, it becomes a bestseller. Why? Because people want to learn how to not do something. Good. So, and then lastly, protect your money. So after all said and done, this was a quote. This is a quote by Warren Buffett, by the way. It says, "Rule one, don't lose money. Rule two, remember rule one." You know, and that's why I have preferred those instruments to you. If you invest in stock the right way, it's very hard to lose money. And even when you lose money, you are not losing money. As long as you play your stocks game right. There's a way to play your stocks game right. And when you play it right, even when this particular stock is underperforming, your other stocks will what? They will pay for it. In fact, they will pay in multiples for it, right? And then when we now take the profit from that and you point to real estate, you will keep getting richer every day. That's how you build wealth. On the back of that, you can also start businesses. You can write ebooks. You can create a product online. There's nothing stopping you. You are meant to be a creator. Genesis says it's God made man in his own image and says, be fruitful, multiply. That fruitfulness doesn't speak only to giving birth to children. It actually speaks to what you have been gifted to do. Start to do it. Write books about your experiences. Write books about this, your skill sets, what you do at your workplace. You can write a book about it. I have I think right now I have like 3 or 4 books. There is hardly a day I don't get a lot, of people buying them. And they're just online. So when I'm sleeping, I wake up, I see a lot. Right? Why? Because I have put concerted efforts into putting my best into those books. They are very valuable books. So when people buy them, I'm happy for 2 reasons. I'm happy that they are going to get value and it's probably going to change their lives. And I'm also happy that I'm earning something for it. Right? So, and as your money grows, lastly, please avoid get rich quick schemes. Because when your money grows, that is actually when those kind of offers come to you, right? It's your prerogative to ensure that no matter what happens, you do what? You learn how to say no. It's better to be safe than to be sorry, right? And lastly, that's my final thing. Lastly, as you build wealth, one of the undoings I've seen among Africans in diaspora, Nigerians in diaspora, is that we don't lack actually, is that we don't leverage the advantage of community, right? That's why the Bible says one which is 1,000, two which is the 10,000. We want to do things alone. And guess what? It hardly gets people far because alone you may go far. I mean, you may go fast rather, but if you want to go fast, if you want to go far, very far, you have to go with people. Just ensure that the people you are going with are the right set of people. If you look at any billionaire globally, from Warren Buffett to Otedola to Dangote, they have something to Tinubu inclusive. They have something, one leverage that most people don't use, and that is the leverage of people. Wealth can never be built in isolation, right? Even when you are investing in stocks, you have to have people who are doing the same thing that you speak to yourselves. So you can encourage yourselves when the market is coming down, right? And you can also tell yourself the latest that is happening. That is how wealth gets built. You can come together, for instance, with your friends and invest in buying a house in the UK. That's what we should be doing together, not spending our time scrolling on social media. Find communities that challenge you to save, to invest, to grow, and build with them. The Bible says iron sharpness iron, right? And I always like to say that there are 2 things that will determine how far you go in life. 2 things. And I found that thing to be very, very true. If you don't take anything from this session tonight, take this away. 2 things that determine how far you go in life. The books you read, and I've recommended tonight, I've recommended The Richest Man in Babylon. If you have not read that book, please go and read it. Take your time and read it over and again. If you read that book, there is like nothing can stop your financial progress as long as you read that book and you apply it. So it says only 2 things determine how far you go in life: the books you read and the people with whom you associate. As long as you can do these 2, financial freedom will become your friend because it is not for a few people. It is for anybody that can take action. And tonight you have been shown the way. My question to you is, will you walk the path? Will you take action? The choice is yours. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. That please just hold on a second. That um, right, is
Sorry, preacher, you are breaking. We're not hearing you.
Oh, you are not hearing me. Is it any better now? Is it better now?
Yeah, I think it's good now. It's okay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying to tell Mr. Isaac how I am personally. and I was feeling bad. A part of me is thinking that I think we didn't put enough time on it. I'm thinking that instead of 3 hours that we are taking,
Preacher is breaking. It's like we are moving far away and then coming back and moving far away.
Wow. Give me a second. Let me change my device. Bear with me, please. I do apologize. I had a very clear sound before now. I'm trying to just change. Let me use the lapel if that would work. Apologies. At least this one. Is it any better now? Is it any better now?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
sorry. Apologies. I'm just saying thank you to Mr. Isaac Oladipo for coming through, and I was saying that you're looking as if the 3 hours is not enough. Again, because we are trying to scramble for time and all of that. But thank you so very much. There's a question I'd like to personally ask Mr. Oladipo before you go. I know that a lot of us have a lot of questions that we want to ask him, and I believe that we can start putting that into the comment section now so that we can quickly. Oh, sorry. The chat, please. They call it the chat at this in this place, so that we can quickly go through that. You mentioned £25 a month, and of course, with the power of compound interest, you can create wealth in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Personally, it's a world that has been mind blowing for me, recently, because I don't think there's anyone here who cannot do £25 a month. In fact, a guy was telling me how he's doing £100 a month, and we are seeing the numbers of in the next 10 years what can happen. None of us, I don't think any one of us is 50 years old yet. Maybe most of us are in our 30s. That means if you say, oh, by when I'm 50 something, I'm already in a lot of money just by doing 25, 50, 100 pounds in a month. There's no one that believes that cannot be able to do that. I want you to speak to the specific. I know that you didn't want to mention that, oh, go and invest with this company, go and do it with this bank and all of that. Can you please just speak a little bit on that, maybe in 5 minutes? Oh, this is what I mean about 25,000 the ETFs. This is what an ETF really is. This is the platform that you probably recommend. You are not advertising anyone. It's not to say you own any of those platforms, so that we can get that, in itself, as to what people can practically start to do, now, not just, I know that if I save for 20 years, I'm going to become, no, what people can start to do from tomorrow morning. Then we can add other legs, if that's okay.
All right, thank you very much, Bukumi. Yes, so essentially, I also see that people are asking questions about ETF. What is ETF?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm happy to expand on that. So essentially, ETFs are called exchange traded funds, right? And the reason why they are powerful is this. So when you invest in Nigerian stock, for the major reason why people don't invest in Nigerian stock, for instance, is simply because they think that more this thing can bust to if the company doesn't do well and whatnot, right? But the interesting thing is the Nigerian stock market has actually now Nigerian stock market right now has I will call it a transformation, because the kind of gains that we're seeing in that market, it's dizzying, it's amazing. Now, for the ETFs, this is where it takes it to another level, right? So ETFs is like, think of it like a basket. When you go to the market and you buy a basket and you buy different fruits in there to balance things, that's exactly how ETFs are. So they're like a basket that contains different companies, globally. In that basket, you have companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Nvidia, the AI king. You have over 500 US companies, their stocks in there. Now, what does that do? What does that mean? Simply means that when you buy that ETF, one ETF, it simply means that you now own stocks in all those 500 companies. And here's the benefit. When a particular company is not doing well, they usually take the company out and replace with another company that is doing well. Now, what does that mean? It means that you are greatly edged from risk, right? And that simply means that no matter what is happening, the ETF would always perform well, right? That is what it simply means. So it's like you are owning a part of different companies across the world together, you know. Now, how do you start? How do you start? If you're in the UK, for instance, all you have to do is um, download one of these apps. There are three of them that are very popular. I personally use Moneybox, right? So there's Moneybox. It's spelled Moneybox. So if you use Moneybox, it's very, very good. You invest your money into any of the ETFs. You can also invest using there is Trade 212, that's the second one, and there is eToro, that's eToro. Those are the three popular ones in the UK. There are a lot of them, right? But those three actually kind of stand out. You know, I used to use one before, but I deleted it when I lost over 1,000 pounds. You know, and again, you will lose money on your journey, but you will learn. I've learned from that now. I learned the hard way, but I'm happy I learned that, you know. But since then, I've not really lost money. In fact, I've gained more than I've lost, right? In that space. So essentially, what am I trying to say? You can start tomorrow by downloading one of those apps. Once you have one of those apps downloaded, then you can automate an amount to be um constantly invested on your behalf into a particular instrument that you've chosen. So for instance, if you download um Moneybox tomorrow, or trading 212, or eToro, whichever one you really love, all you've got to do is go there and choose those two ETFs I mentioned. There's VOO, that's VOO, and there's QQQ, right? The reason for that is because those two have performed outstandingly well over time, right? And then what you then do is there's an automation. I mean, there's automation there as well. So you can actually say, I mean, for Moneybox that I use, it's very user friendly, and also it is automated. So you can, if you earn a salary, for instance, you can say, okay, every month, if your salary comes in on the 25th, you can automate it to say, okay, on the 26th of every month, take out £50 and invest it automatically for me in this particular ETF. So what that happens is you've put your investment on autopilot, right? Now, I like to call it, and you've put yourself on a journey to become an automatic millionaire. In fact, by the way, there's a book called Automatic Millionaire, one of my favorite books. You should also check that out. Fantastic book, right? That book tells the story. That book tells the story of two couples. You know, one earning a lot of money, and one, I think one of the other couple, they had just these random jobs, teacher and all of that. And guess what? The couple that were earning low, they were millionaires. They became financially free in their young years, right? And the other couple, they had lavish cars and all of that, and they were in debt.
That's by David Batch or something.
David Batch, correct. Automatic Millionaire. Fantastic book. You know, I mean, I love the storytelling. It's not a Nigerian book, but you will get a lot of value from it. So it will just help you see clearly. No matter where you are, you can actually see this wealth thing is very simple. And what I love about it is that once you've achieved it, because see, God did not create us to come and work until we die. No, that's not the plan. So the plan is that you live the early years of your life, work hard. You can say, okay, for the next 5 years or next 10 years, I want to work hard. I want to do all I need to do. After those years, you are then able to choose what you want to do. Doesn't mean that you will not work anymore. It simply means that you will choose the kind of work that you do. Why? Because you have now achieved what they call financial independence. And what is financial independence? It's simply when the returns on your investments can pay your bills. Simple. All right. So I hope that gives clarity enough to that
Yes,
question.
that does that for me. I'm trying to see if we have questions coming through. Just take one or two and then we'll be able to. I try to put your website out. I know that your website has a lot of your information, and
Yeah.
your Instagram is of course the IC Collar.
Yeah.
I put that in the chat for people because I see people asking for your um so I'm trying to see the advent of fintech companies in Nigeria has brought a lot of sanity, I believe. Yes, That's a lot of sanity in that sector.
Yeah.
Plum is also good. Someone is talking about Plum. Anyways, so there's no question here. There's no question. Does anyone have any kind of question? So that because we've shoot the time, but it's quite worth it because money is important. It's not as if we are not making money. In fact, I was having a discussion that I discovered that most Nigerians in the UK, some people have money. Some people have 7,000, 10,000 pounds in their savings account in the UK, or sorry, the checking account in the UK, and they just keep it. And the money is not doing anything, about they have the money, and they keep converting it to naira. Once naira fall, they say, oh, owe me to the 10 million. Once naira fall further, oh, owe me to the 12 million. So in their mind, they are making real wealth because they are just waiting for when naira falls so that their 8,000 pounds cannot become 20 billion. That's how most people have been creating wealth mentally, in their head, because money is important. I'm just waiting. Does anyone ask question? Please, you can come up now, very quickly, very quickly. Let me go back to the gallery. Anyone with question? Anyone with question? Anyone with question? Okay. There's a way that there's a
Yes,
way.
I have a question.
Adetunji. Okay, I'm just going to take one or two. So I'm taking only one. Adetunji, please shoot your question, please.
Good evening, Mr. Isaac. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you for the insightful moment with you. Yeah, I've been in your class, the one you had previously, generally, and
Oh, really?
hearing from you tonight also sharpens what I'm thinking. Yeah. A quick one about investing here, like buying stocks. Now, I got to see what's your take on buying stocks. I know you've shared a lot about it on buying stocks here because I'm seeing 3 point something percent, 2 point something percent as against the regular buying of treasury bills that you talked about in your previous class that I attended. Because me, I'm a money person. Is it wise for me to invest where I'm seeing?
Is it me or is breaking?
Or back home in Nigeria? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, but you were breaking, I believe. But continue.
Could I take the question again?
Just very quickly, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I said, what would you advise when I check the stocks here? I'm seeing a lower interest rate compared to the stocks we have back home in Nigeria, where I come from, and about the treasury bills we talked about in your previous class.
Okay. Because asking what do you advise in those two, like invest back home or invest in these abroad portfolios?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Very smart question, actually. Brilliant one. So, it's all about diversification, really. Again, there are many things working for and against the different markets. So in Nigeria, for instance, you have the naira devaluation, right? Here you have strong currency. Of course, it is correct that when you invest in, for instance, right now, Stanbic IBTC, one of Stanbic IBTC investment instruments actually offers 20% interest, interestingly. So, you can actually take a loan from your company at times, because at times when a company gives you a loan, it's at a ridiculous interest rates, ridiculously fair interest rates. You can take it to Nigeria and invest and bring money and just take the difference, right? So I hear what you're saying. But the thing is, Nigeria looks sweet on paper, and you see the 20% returns on T-bills, fixed income, and even stocks. Meanwhile, the UK or even US stocks or bonds are showing you 3 to 5% and all of that. So the first instinct is, I beg, let me keep all my money in Nigeria. But here's the wisdom. Nigeria offers high returns and also high risk. Because yes, you can earn 20%, but inflation there is also over 30%. Plus, you have the policy changes, you have the currency swings, you have the market shocks, so your Naira gain may vanish in real time, if we're being pragmatic here. But in terms of the UK, US markets, of course, lower returns, but higher stability. right? So that small 5% abroad is actually real stable and in a strong currency. You know what that means. So over 10 years, the compound effects plus the currency safety definitely beats many flashy Naira returns in many cases. So what I advise really is think balance, not either or. That is the best strategy in my opinion. So the smartest play is to enjoy Nigeria's high short-term returns, which is invest in stocks like GTCO, Dangote, MTN, which can give you a lot of percentage in a year. Those stocks, for instance, some of them have seen over 100% in 6 months, right? Which is a very high, like you're saying, right? So my advice is balance both. So you do Nigerian stocks while also building a long-term dollar foundation abroad with ETFs or solid, UK or US stocks. So practical example, if you have 1 million now, let me give you an example. That's like 500 pounds, right? So you can do 50-50 or 60-40. So you could do a 60-40 and put 40 in Nigeria, put them in growth funds, and then you put the 60 in ETFs like VOO and QQQ. So that way you are leveraging both markets, and you are ensuring that you're gaining from the global stocks markets and also gaining from the Nigerian stock markets. So generally the advice is leverage both markets, don't go for one. So that way you're leveraging and gaining from the high rate of return in Nigeria, and also leveraging and gaining from the stable markets in the US, UK, and globally. So long story short, both markets have their volatility, their risk, and returns, but the best strategy forward is do a diversification by investing in both.